Write in the comments where you are watching from and at what time, so I can get to know you better. To support the channel for free, don't forget to subscribe and like. Some doors once opened can never be closed again. Tonight, we access a file that shouldn't exist. It details a place that has been meticulously erased from history, and an experiment so catastrophic, its official record is a single, deafening silence. This is the classified case of the Stillwater anomaly. Before a place can be forgotten, it must first exist. Our investigation begins not with classified secrets, but with public records. County archives, geological surveys, and census data from the first half of the 20th century all attest to the existence of Stillwater, a small, unincorporated mining town nestled deep in the Garnet Range of western Montana. Founded in the late 1890s during a minor silver rush, Stillwater was, by all accounts, unremarkable. Its population peaked at just over 600 souls in the 1920s, dwindling to less than 200 by the early 1950s as the mines played out. It was a town at the end of its line, a common story in the American West. We have birth certificates, property deeds, and faded photographs of 4th of July parades down its single paved road. Stillwater was real. It had a post office, a general store, a schoolhouse. It was a tangible collection of lives and histories. Yet, if you consult any official map printed after 1957, it is gone. Not just the name, but the roads leading to it, the geological markers, the very indication that a settlement ever occupied that small valley. This was not a gradual fading into a ghost town. This was a surgical removal from public record. Local folklore from adjacent counties, passed down through generations, speaks of it in hushed tones. They call it the Whispering Valley or the Humming Town. The stories are fragmented, often dismissed as rural legends. They speak of a time in the mid-50s when the military moved in, restricting access to the entire region. They talk of a low, persistent hum that could be felt in one's teeth, a sound that seemed to emanate from the ground itself and drove wildlife from the surrounding forests. The official explanation, for those who even remember being given one, was a mercury leak from the old mines, necessitating a permanent quarantine for environmental reasons. But no public records of such a large-scale contamination event exist. No EPA reports, no state-level emergency declarations. The explanation was a story created to fill a void. The truth, as the evidence will suggest, is that Stillwater did not die. It was used. It became the stage for an experiment that would challenge the boundaries of known science. And its 200 remaining residents became the unwilling and unrecorded first subjects. Erasing a town from a map is a bureaucratic act. Erasing it from history requires a concerted, systematic effort. The process that befell Stillwater was methodical and chillingly efficient. It began in 1956 with a series of federal land acquisitions. Using eminent domain, the U.S. government, through a shell corporation named Pioneer Geological Services, purchased not just the town itself, but a vast buffer zone of over 50 square miles of surrounding wilderness. The justification cited in the heavily redacted purchase orders we've managed to uncover was national security interests and geophysical research. This was followed by the aforementioned environmental quarantine story, a convenient fiction that deterred public inquiry. The next step was the physical and informational isolation. All roads leading to the valley were decommissioned. U.S. Geological Survey maps were redrawn. Census records pertaining to Stillwater's specific enumeration district were withdrawn from public access and archived under a classified project codename. The town's post office was officially closed, with all mail forwarded to a P.O. box that, as we later discovered, was a dead end. This process represents a level of administrative control that is rarely seen outside of wartime. It suggests an operation of the highest priority, one that required absolute secrecy. We spoke with a retired cartographer who worked for the USGS in the 1960s. He requested anonymity. He recalled a specific directive that came down from the Department of Defense regarding a list of sensitive locations. These were areas that were to be represented as featureless, undeveloped land on all new public-facing maps, regardless of what was actually there. He remembers Stillwater's coordinates being on that list. He said, "We were told not to ask questions. You just did the revision. We called them ghost grids. We assumed they were missile silos or secret bases. But Stillwater was different. It wasn't just an installation. An entire community was on the old maps. To see it just gone on the new ones, it was unsettling. It felt like we were lying to the country, changing its memory." This official erasure is perhaps the most concrete piece of evidence we have. It is an undeniable, verifiable act of suppression. It is a black hole in the public record, and like all black holes, its existence is confirmed by the way it affects everything around it. The distorted local histories, the sealed archives, the ghost grids on the nation's maps. The question is not whether a cover-up happened. The evidence for that is overwhelming. The question is, what, precisely, was being covered up? For decades, the story of Stillwater was nothing more than rumor and the unsettling absence on a map. That changed in 1998 with the first anonymous leak. A single page, designated Fragment 0, was mailed to a small group of investigative journalists and fringe science publications. Its authenticity has never been officially confirmed, but its contents provided the first glimpse into the true nature of the events. The document is a photocopy of what appears to be a page from a project proposal dated March 1955. It is riddled with black marker redactions, a hallmark of declassified government files. The project title is redacted, as are the names of the overseeing agency and most personnel. But what remains is revelatory. The page discusses the selection of a geologically and acoustically isolated environment for a Phase 2 field test. It mentions the need for a static, contained population to serve as a baseline control group. Most chillingly, it contains key phrases that point directly to the experiment's purpose: prolonged exposure to modulated ELF, psychoacoustic resonance, and population-level behavioral modification. This was not a geological survey. It was an experiment on human beings. The term ELF refers to extremely low-frequency sound waves, pitches below the normal range of human hearing. While inaudible, these waves can be felt as vibrations and have documented physiological effects. In the 1950s, research into the psychological impact of such frequencies was in its infancy, and it was a field ripe for exploration by military and intelligence agencies during the Cold War. The document's reference to psychoacoustic resonance is particularly significant. It suggests a theory that a specific frequency could be found that would resonate not with the ears, but with the human brain itself, potentially allowing for the direct manipulation of emotions, perceptions, or even thoughts on a mass scale. Fragment 0, though incomplete, reframed the entire mystery. The disappearance of Stillwater was no longer just a land grab or a simple cover-up. It was the creation of a human laboratory. The document ends with a heavily redacted paragraph, but a few words are legible. Potential for unforeseen cascade effect, recommend containment protocol, level 7. The term cascade effect is alarming, implying a chain reaction, something that could grow beyond the experimenter's control. The classification level mentioned, if authentic, is also telling. Level 7, in most classification systems of that era, would be reserved for information of the utmost sensitivity, on par with nuclear weapon design or intelligence source identities. Fragment 0 was a Rosetta Stone, translating the whispers and rumors into the cold, technical language of a clandestine government project. It gave the anomaly a purpose, and it hinted at a conclusion so terrifying that it had to be buried under 50 years of official silence. Every secret project has an architect. In the case of Stillwater, all fragmented evidence points to one man, Dr. Alistair Finch. Finch was a phantom in the annals of mainstream science, but a titan in the shadows. A theoretical physicist who graduated from Caltech with top honors in the late 1940s, his early work on wave propagation and quantum acoustics was considered brilliant, if unconventional. We found his name in university archives, his face a confident, sharp-featured visage in old academic photos. He published several papers in respected journals before 1952, but then he vanishes from the public record of academia. There are no more publications, no university affiliations, no conference appearances. It was as if he ceased to exist. However, by cross-referencing declassified documents from other, unrelated defense projects, his name reappears, albeit often partially redacted. He is listed as a consultant for the Office of Naval Research, and more significantly, for a research division within the CIA that was a direct precursor to the infamous MK-Ultra project. Finch was not just a theoretical scientist. He had been recruited into the clandestine world of Cold War research. His fringe theories were exactly what the intelligence community was looking for. Finch's primary thesis, pieced together from footnotes in his early work and rumors from colleagues of that era, was that the universe was not silent. He believed that complex, information-rich patterns existed in subsonic and background radiation frequencies, a kind of cosmic symphony. He theorized that the human brain, under specific conditions, could be tuned to perceive these patterns. His most radical idea, however, was that this process could be reversed. If the brain could be made to receive a signal, could a sufficiently powerful targeted signal be used to imprint information directly onto a human consciousness? Or more terrifyingly, an entire population? This was the theoretical foundation of psychoacoustic resonance. He wasn't interested in just influencing emotions. He was trying to rewrite perception itself. A former colleague, whom we spoke to under strict anonymity, described Finch as dangerously brilliant. He said, Alistair saw physics as a tool to unlock the human mind. He didn't see boundaries between the physical world and the subjective world of consciousness. For him, it was all just wave mechanics. Most of us thought he was a genius, but we were also a little afraid of where his ideas were going. When he took the government job, none of us were surprised, but we never heard from him again. Dr. Alistair Finch was the perfect figure to lead a project like the one at Stillwater. He possessed the intellect to conceive of it, the ambition to pursue it, and the moral ambiguity to overlook the human cost. he walked into the shadows of national security in 1952. And it was in the isolated valley of Stillwater, Montana, that he was finally given a laboratory to test his most profound and terrifying theories. Official records are one path to the truth. Human memory is another, often more fraught, but sometimes more revealing. Our investigation led us to a source, a third-hand account derived from the notes of a journalist, who, in the early 2000s, interviewed a man claiming to be a former U.S. Air Force pilot. The pilot, identified only as Witness A, was in his late 70s at the time and spoke on the condition of absolute anonymity. His testimony provides a crucial outside perspective on the Stillwater operation. According to the journalist's notes, Witness A flew a C-47 Skytrain out of a military airfield in Idaho between 1956 and 1957. His missions were classified as special logistics. Twice a month, he would fly a predetermined indirect route into western Montana, his destination a set of coordinates that did not correspond to any known airfield. His orders were to make low-altitude parachute drops of sealed cargo pallets onto a designated clearing. He was never to land, never to make radio contact, and his flight logs were to be sanitized after each mission. He described the drop zone as a small, isolated valley, surrounded by rugged, inaccessible terrain. He could see the layout of a small town, but noted that it was all wrong. There were no cars on the streets, no children playing, no smoke from chimneys. The only signs of life were the ground crew that would emerge to collect the pallets, men he described as wearing sterile-looking coveralls. He also noted the presence of strange, non-standard equipment, including what looked like large parabolic dishes, pointed not at the sky, but horizontally across the valley. Most significantly, he spoke about the lights. It wasn't a normal town's lights, the notes quote him as saying. Sometimes there'd be this pulse, a low blue-white light that would sweep across the valley floor. It wasn't a searchlight. It was like the air itself was glowing for a second. And the silence on the radio. We were under strict radio silence for the entire leg of the flight. But it was more than that. The static itself felt different over that valley. It felt dead. His final mission was in the autumn of 1957. He said the drop zone was marked as usual, but no ground crew appeared. He circled for 20 minutes, but there was no sign of activity. He followed protocol and returned to base with the cargo. He was debriefed by two men in dark suits he had never seen before. They weren't in uniform. They told him the project he was supplying had been concluded successfully and that his services were no longer needed. He was ordered to sign an expanded non-disclosure agreement, one that carried severe penalties for any breach. He said the finality and the seriousness of that final debriefing scared him more than any of the strange flights. He was a supply pilot, a cog in the machine. But he had seen enough to know that whatever was happening in Stillwater was far outside the realm of conventional military operations. The historical evidence paints a picture of a clandestine experiment. But can any trace of it be found today? The answer, incredibly, may be yes. In recent years, independent researchers and audio hobbyists have been drawn to the area surrounding the former site of Stillwater, intrigued by the persistent local legends of a hum. Using sophisticated modern recording equipment, they have made a startling discovery. There is a sound, but it is not a hum. It is an anomalous, persistent, extremely low frequency wave, registering between 8 and 12 hertz. This frequency is well below the threshold of human hearing, which typically starts at 20 hertz. However, it can be detected by specialized equipment and, anecdotally, can be felt by some sensitive individuals as a sense of unease, pressure, or vibration. We provided these recordings to Dr. Eris Thorne, an acoustic physicist who specializes in environmental sound analysis. He agreed to analyze the data on the condition that we not reveal his affiliation. His findings were perplexing. The signal is remarkably stable, Dr. Thorne explained. It doesn't fluctuate with weather patterns, time of day, or seismic activity. This makes a natural geological source, like microseisms or resonant cavity effects in rock formations, highly unlikely. Those sources have a signature, a variability. This is almost perfectly monotonous. We asked him about man-made sources. That's even more problematic, he said. Power grids generate a 60 Hz hum in the US. Large industrial equipment has a complex, noisy signature. This signal is, for lack of a better term, too clean. It lacks the harmonic overtones you'd expect from any conventional machinery. It's a pure, fundamental frequency. To generate a signal this stable over this wide an area would require a massive, purpose-built transmitter and a staggering amount of power. Most significantly, the frequency of the Stillwater anomaly falls directly within the range of alpha and theta brain waves. This is the crucial link back to Dr. Finch's theories. He believed that by broadcasting a powerful external signal that mimicked the brain's own internal frequencies, he could achieve a state of forced resonance, potentially entraining the brain activity of anyone within the field. The persistent ALF signal today could be an echo, a residual effect of the original experiment. Perhaps the equipment was never fully decommissioned. Or a more disturbing possibility, perhaps the experiment created a self-sustaining phenomenon, an acoustic scar left on the very fabric of the valley. The sound that cannot be heard is the most compelling piece of physical evidence that the Stillwater experiment did not just happen, but that in some form it never truly ended. What happened when the switch was thrown? What were the immediate effects of Dr. Finch's psychoacoustic resonance field? The official record is silent, but a controversial and unverified document offers a terrifying day-by-day account. This document purports to be a transcription of a journal kept by a junior researcher inside Stillwater, smuggled out before the final event and preserved by his family. Its authenticity is impossible to prove, but its details are chillingly consistent with the other fragmented evidence. We will call it the researcher's log. Day 1, 1400 hours. Primary emitter array activated at 30% amplitude. Frequency set at 10.2 Hz. The hum is not audible, of course, but there is a distinct pressure, a subharmonic vibration felt in the bones. Dr. Finch is ecstatic. He calls it the voice of the valley. The test subjects, our volunteer population, were not informed of the activation. Initial observations are subtle. We are monitoring behavioral patterns from the central command post. There is a statistically significant increase in reports of mild headaches and tinnitus among the townsfolk. More interestingly, our embedded observers report a palpable rise in irritability. 3 domestic disputes were reported to the town's security detail in the first 6 hours, an unusual number for a population this small. By 2200 hours, the effects became more pronounced. Several subjects reported intense, vivid dreams with remarkably similar thematic content. Primarily feelings of being watched or pursued through labyrinthine corridors. The dream-sharing phenomenon is not something Dr. Finch predicted. at least not at this low amplitude. He seems intrigued rather than concerned. I, however, find it deeply unsettling. We are not merely observing them, we are inside their heads. The barrier between individuals seems to be thinning. The log also notes the first signs of paranoia. Subjects were observed checking locks, peering out of windows, and speaking in hushed tones. They seem to be reacting to a threat that isn't there, or more accurately, a threat they cannot see or hear, but can only feel the silent, pervasive pressure of the ALF field. The researcher's entry for day 1 ends on a note of foreboding. Finch is convinced this is proof of concept. He has ordered amplitude increase to 50% tomorrow. Some of the senior staff have raised concerns, arguing for a more gradual escalation. Finch overruled them. He said, "We are not here to be timid. We are here to open a door. I am afraid of what might be on the other side." The log entry provides a stark, human perspective on the cold, technical language of Fragment 0. The behavioral modification was not a clean, predictable process. It was a messy, terrifying intrusion into the human psyche, and day 1 was only the beginning. The second day of the Stillwater experiment, as documented in the researcher's log, marked a significant and terrifying escalation. The sense of control that the scientific team possessed on day 1 began to fray, replaced by a growing realization that they had initiated a process they did not fully understand. Day 2, 800 hours. Amplitude increased to 50%. The physical sensation is now undeniable, a constant low-level vibration that seems to loosen your teeth. Concentration is difficult. Several members of the research team are complaining of nausea and disorientation. Dr. Finch dismisses it as acclimatization. The effect on the subject population has been profound. The generalized anxiety of yesterday has coalesced into a shared, specific delusion. Over 70% of the subjects now believe that a stranger or outsider is hiding somewhere in the town. They have begun to form search parties, moving from house to house. Their movements are becoming eerily synchronized. They walk in step, their gestures mirroring one another. It is not the behavior of an angry mob, but something more akin to a hive of insects. The individuality of the subjects appears to be eroding. The log describes a critical turning point around 1500 hours. The town's security detail, composed of military personnel who were supposed to be immune to the field's effects due to experimental countermeasures, began to break down. One of them abandoned his post and joined a search party, claiming he had seen the stranger near the old schoolhouse. The command structure was failing. The researchers were becoming part of their own experiment. The log continues. The most disturbing development is what we are calling acoustic hallucinations. Subjects are reporting hearing voices, not whispers, but clear, conversational tones, coming from inanimate objects, from walls, from furniture, from the empty sky. They seem to be receiving a broadcast, but there is no source. We are monitoring all RF frequencies. The valley is silent. Dr. Finch now theorizes that the ELF field is not just influencing brainwaves, but is causing the brain's auditory processing center to self-stimulate, to interpret the subsonic waves as complex sound. He is unable to explain, however, why they are all hearing the same things. They are all receiving the same non-existent message. The final entry for day 2 is written in a shaky, almost illegible hand. Nightfall. The search parties have stopped. They are now gathering in the town square. They are not speaking. They are standing perfectly still, all facing the direction of the primary emitter array on the ridge. Just standing, staring. Even some of our own staff are feeling the compulsion. I had to physically restrain a technician from leaving the command post. He kept repeating the same phrase. "I have to join the choir." Dr. Finch has locked himself in his office. For the first time, he looks afraid. The door he wanted to open is wide open now, and something is coming through. The third and final entry in the researcher's log is brief, chaotic, and utterly terrifying. It is not a detailed scientific observation, but a desperate, final report from a situation that had spiraled into complete catastrophe. It chronicles the moment the Stillwater anomaly reached its singularity. Day 3, 02:45 hours. He increased the power. Finch. He bypassed the safety protocols and pushed the emitter to maximum, 120%, God knows why. Maybe he thought he could regain control. Maybe he just wanted to see what would happen. The vibration is unbearable. The walls are shaking. Light bulbs are shattering. The concrete floor feels like it's turning to liquid. The log describes the scene in the town square. The silent standing population began to move in unison, not in a panic, but with a horrifying, ritualistic precision. The researcher writes that they were dancing to a song no one could hear, their bodies contorting in unnatural ways. The acoustic hallucinations had become a single deafening roar inside the minds of everyone in the valley, a sound the researcher describes as the universe screaming. Then, at approximately 0330 hours, came the event that would define the anomaly. The researcher writes, "The sound stopped, all of it. The humming, the vibration, the voices in my head. Everything just ceased. For a moment, there was a sense of relief. And then, the silence. It wasn't just quiet, it was a void, a complete absence of sound that was somehow louder than the noise it replaced. A pressure, an absolute stillness that felt wrong, unnatural. It was in this moment of profound silence that the final broadcast occurred. The log entry corresponds perfectly with a long-rumored incident at a military listening post over 100 miles away. At 03:33 a.m., that listening post, tasked with monitoring Soviet communications, picked up a powerful, anomalous broadcast. The signal was a line-of-sight transmission, meaning it did not bounce off the ionosphere, and it was triangulated to originate from the precise location of Stillwater. The broadcast lasted for exactly 72 seconds. It contained no voice, no Morse code, only a repeating sequence of numbers layered over a bed of what was described as white noise, unlike any standard electronic static. The researcher's log provides the final, chilling context. The people in the square, they turned. All at once, they looked up at the sky, and they opened their mouths. The broadcast, it was them. It was coming from them. There was no sound in the valley, but the signal was going out. I don't know what it is. A message? A warning? A final scream? The light from the control panel is fading. The power is, I have to get this out. Stillwater is not a place anymore. The entry ends there. The page is torn. After that 72-second broadcast, all communication and all signs of activity from Stillwater ceased permanently. The silence the researcher described became absolute and, it seems, eternal. Weeks after the silence fell, the operation entered its final phase, the cover-up. The official story of Stillwater would be sealed not by scientists, but by soldiers. Our investigation uncovered a testimony given on a deathbed to a family member and secretly recorded from a man who claimed to be part of the first team sent into Stillwater after the event. He was a U.S. Army Chemical Corps specialist, and his unit was designated the cleanup crew. His account, which we have had voice analyzed and believed to be credible, paints a surreal and deeply disturbing picture. We were told it was a radiation leak, his raspy voice recounts. A small experimental reactor had gone critical. We went in with full NBC nuclear, biological, chemical gear. We expected to find a disaster zone, bodies, destruction. But there was nothing. Nothing was out of place. He described a town frozen in time. Houses were immaculate. In one home, a dinner table was set, the food on the plates untouched. In another, a child's toys were laid out on a rug, as if in mid-play. There were no signs of a struggle, no panic, no evacuation. The entire population of nearly 200 test subjects, plus the entire research and security staff of over 50 personnel, had vanished without a trace. The strangest part was the lack of decay, he continued. We went in almost a month after the incident, they called it. That food on the table should have been rotten. There should have been dust. But everything was preserved. The air was cold and dry, and there was this smell. Not a bad smell. Like ozone and old paper. Clean. Too clean. His team swept the entire valley. They found the research facility, the massive emitter array on the ridge, and the central command post. Everything was intact, though powerless. They found Dr. Finch's office, his desk covered in frantic, last-minute calculations. They found the researcher's log, left open on a console. But they found no people, not a single body, not a drop of blood. It was a mass disappearance on an unprecedented scale. Then he revealed the one detail that haunted him for the rest of his life. Every clock, every single one. Wristwatches on bedside tables, cuckoo clocks on the walls, the big clock on the town hall. They were all stopped. And they were all stopped at the exact same time, 3:33 a.m. This detail aligns perfectly with the time of the final anomalous broadcast. It suggests that at that precise moment, something happened that didn't just affect the people, but the fundamental mechanics of the environment itself. The cleanup crew's mission was not to rescue or investigate. It was to erase. Under orders from a civilian authority they never identified, they dismantled the research equipment, crated it up, and shipped it out on unmarked trucks. They were then ordered to remove all personal effects from the home's photographs, letters, clothing, anything that proved people had lived there. "We were undertakers for a town," he said. "We buried its memory. When we left, Stillwater was just a collection of empty buildings. A perfect, silent, ghost town." The 72-second broadcast of repeating numbers from Stillwater at 03:33 a.m. is one of the most enigmatic pieces of the puzzle. For years, it was a ghost in the machine, a rumored log entry in the records of a Cold War listening post. When a sanitized version of that log was declassified in the late 1990s, it confirmed the signal's existence, though its origin was officially listed as unidentified atmospheric phenomena. The sequence of numbers itself, however, remains highly classified. But through sources connected to the intelligence community, we have been able to obtain a portion of the sequence. It is not random. It is a structured, repeating block of digits. This has led to the prevailing theory that Stillwater had become, in its final moments, a number station. Number stations are shortwave radio stations of unknown origin that broadcast streams of numbers, letters, or coded phrases. They are widely believed to be a method for governments to communicate with spies in the field. The broadcasts are encrypted with a one-time pad, a key that makes the messages mathematically unbreakable without prior access to the key itself. If the Stillwater broadcast was a numbers station, what message was it sending? And to whom? We consulted with a former NSA cryptographer. After reviewing the partial sequence we obtained, he offered a chilling analysis. The structure is consistent with a one-time pad broadcast, he confirmed. But the carrier wave, the static it was layered on, is the truly bizarre part. The official log calls it white noise, but our internal analysis at the time described it as structured noise. It had a fractal, repeating pattern within it, almost like a digital signature. It was not like any electronic or atmospheric static we had ever encountered. He proposed 3 possibilities. The first is that this was Dr. Finch's final, desperate data dump. In the final moments, he may have converted the experiment's telemetry and findings into a coded numerical sequence and broadcast it to a hidden recipient, a pre-arranged emergency protocol. The second possibility is more unsettling. The message may not have come from the researchers at all. In the context of the researcher's log, which stated the broadcast was coming from the townspeople, it's possible that the choir was sending its own message. The experiment may have succeeded in opening a door, and the numbers were the language of whatever came through. The final possibility is the most abstract and terrifying. What if it wasn't a message in the signal? The cryptographer posited. What if the signal was the message, not the numbers, but the carrier wave itself, the structured noise? The numbers were just a framework. The real information was in the shape of the static. And we don't have the first clue how to even begin decoding that. The numbers sequence from Stillwater has never been deciphered because there is no known key. It remains a ghost transmission, a final, incomprehensible message from a town that had ceased to exist. The legacy of the Stillwater experiment may not be confined to history and witness testimony. Evidence suggests the event left a permanent scar on the physical environment itself, creating a host of geological and physical anomalies that persist to this day. While the area remains officially restricted, several independent scientific surveys, often conducted under the guise of mineral prospecting or academic research, have yielded a portfolio of bizarre and inexplicable data. The most significant of these is a localized magnetic anomaly. The Earth's magnetic field in the region of the Stillwater Valley is not uniform. It is twisted, with readings that fluctuate wildly over short distances. Compasses spin uselessly. Sensitive magnetometers record spikes and dips that defy geological explanation. A leaked report from a private survey company in the 1980s noted that the magnetic field lines appeared to be braided, a term with no standard geological meaning used to describe a phenomenon the surveyors had never before encountered. This suggests the presence of a powerful, ongoing magnetic source, or that the rock strata itself was somehow permanently altered at a molecular level. Alongside the magnetic deviations are gravitational fluctuations. Using highly sensitive gravimeters, researchers have detected micro-variations in the local gravitational field. The readings are subtly, yet measurably, lighter in the center of the valley than they should be, even when accounting for all known geological factors. This has led to fringe theories about exotic matter, or localized space-time warping. But in simpler terms, it means that the laws of physics in that valley appear to be behaving in a slightly, but consistently, different way. Perhaps the most visual evidence comes from the phenomenon of atmospheric lensing. On rare occasions, under specific weather conditions, hikers and observers in the surrounding mountain ranges have photographed what appears to be a severe heat haze or mirage effect emanating from the empty valley, even on cold days. Light passing over the area is visibly bent and distorted. One amateur astronomer, attempting to photograph a meteor shower, captured an image where the stars directly above the valley appeared to be warped, as if viewed through a massive, invisible lens. These physical anomalies, acoustic, magnetic, gravitational, and optical, paint a cohesive picture. The experiment conducted by Dr. Finch was not just a psychological one. His psychoacoustic resonance field was a powerful energy source that interacted with the environment in ways he may not have predicted. The cascade effect, mentioned in Fragment 0, may not have been a psychological chain reaction, but a physical one. The Stillwater anomaly may be the result of an experiment that didn't just break its subjects. It broke the local reality. The official quarantine of the Stillwater Valley was not just a matter of taking it off the maps. For years after the 1957 incident, a hard perimeter was maintained. A silent, unacknowledged blockade enforced by men who answered to no recognizable authority. This part of the story comes from an interview with a retired sheriff's deputy from a neighboring county. For over 20 years, he patrolled the highways and back roads that bordered the restricted zone. He never went in, but he saw who was keeping people out. It wasn't the military, not in uniform anyway, he recalled. And it wasn't us. Our orders were simple. If we got any calls about hunters or hikers going missing up near the old Garnet Range, we were to log it and pass the report to a federal liaison. We were never to mount our own search. We were told the area was an unmapped toxic waste dump from the old mines. We all knew that was a lie. He described encounters with the men who enforced the quarantine. They drove unmarked black sedans, always clean, even on the dusty logging roads. They wore plain, dark suits, regardless of the weather. They never identified themselves as FBI or CIA, only as federal agents. They had their own radio frequency, the deputy said. Sometimes we'd pick up their chatter. It was all code. Package is secure. Perimeter is sterile. Nothing that told you what they were doing. They were ghosts. They'd set up temporary roadblocks on the old access roads, turn people away, and by the next day, they'd be gone. He recounted one specific incident in the late 1960s. A pair of college students, amateur geologists, had tried to bypass the unofficial cordon to search for unique rock formations. Their car was found abandoned on a service road. The deputy was the first on the scene. The car was locked. Their gear was still inside. No sign of a struggle. It was like they just got out and walked into the woods. We were about to call in a search party when two of those sedans pulled up. The men in suits got out, told me this was a federal matter now, and that my department's assistance was not required. The next day, the official story was that the students had been found safe in another county, had a bit of a scare, and went home. But their families kept calling our office for weeks, saying they'd never come home. We were ordered by our sheriff to drop it. This testimony reveals the human element of the cover-up. It was an active, ongoing operation that required intimidation and disinformation. The men in black sedans were the guardians of Stillwater's secret, ensuring that what happened in the valley stayed in the valley. They were the physical manifestation of the official silence, the wall between our world and the anomaly Dr. Finch had created. For years, the narrative of the Stillwater experiment cast Dr. Alistair Finch as a reckless, hubristic scientist who pushed his experiment too far, blinded by ambition. However, a second, more complete document that surfaced in 2011 challenges this interpretation. Known as the Finch Memorandum, it is believed to be a carbon copy of a memo written by Finch himself, addressed to his project overseers, dated just 1 week before the full power test began. Its tone is not one of confidence, but of urgent, professional alarm. The memorandum is a plea to abort the project. In it, Finch states that his latest calculations and small-scale preliminary tests have revealed an unforeseen variable, a factor his original theories had not accounted for. He writes, "The resonance effect is not limited to neural tissue. We have detected a sympathetic vibration in non-organic materials. The local geology, specifically the high quartz content of the granite in the valley, appears to be acting as a colossal transducer, amplifying and focusing the ELF field in unpredictable ways. We are not simply broadcasting a signal. We are turning the entire valley into a resonant cavity." This is a critical revelation. The experiment was not contained to the subjects. It had merged with the environment itself. Finch goes on to express his most profound fear. He theorized that if the field amplitude were pushed beyond a certain threshold, it could achieve what he termed ontological resonance. This is a concept far beyond psychoacoustic resonance. He writes, "I have come to believe that what we identify as consensual reality is itself a form of complex, stable waveform. It is a shared signal that all matter and consciousness is tuned to. My fear is that the Stillwater field, amplified by the geology, could create a signal powerful enough to overwrite the primary signal within a localized area. It would not be an illusion or a mass hallucination. It would be a fundamental desynchronization from the baseline reality. We would be creating an island of changed laws, a pocket universe with its own new and perhaps hostile physics." He ends the memorandum with a stark recommendation: the potential for a self-sustaining, non-terminating cascade event is no longer a remote possibility, but a statistical probability. I have lost control of the primary variable. We are standing at a precipice, and I do not know what lies in the abyss. I urge you, in the strongest possible terms, to abort Project Chimera immediately." The memorandum, if authentic, recasts Dr. Finch not as a monster, but as a tragic figure, a man who realized the true danger of his creation too late. It also suggests that the final catastrophic activation of the emitter was not his decision, or perhaps was a decision made under duress from his superiors, who refused to heed his warning. The Stillwater anomaly was not just an experiment gone wrong. It was a known danger that was allowed to happen. The Stillwater experiment, codenamed Project Chimera according to the Finch Memorandum, cannot be viewed in isolation. It was a product of its time, a dark flower blooming in the fertile soil of the Cold War's secret psychological arms race. To truly understand Stillwater, we must place it in context with other, more well-known clandestine programs of that era. The most famous of these is MKUltra. Run by the CIA from the 1950s to the 1970s, MKUltra was a sprawling, illegal human experimentation program designed to develop procedures and identify drugs, such as LSD, that could be used in interrogations to control human behavior. It involved unwitting American citizens, psychological torture, and a complete disregard for medical ethics. While MKUltra focused on chemical and psychological manipulation of individuals, Project Chimera appears to have been its theoretical cousin, attempting to achieve similar goals on a mass scale using physics instead of chemistry. Where MKUltra used a syringe, Stillwater used a standing wave. Another parallel can be found in Project Stargate, the U.S. Army's program to investigate the reality and potential military applications of psychic phenomena, such as remote viewing. For over 2 decades, the military spent millions of dollars to see if individuals could use extrasensory perception to view distant, hidden targets. While Stargate was an attempt to receive information from the human mind, Stillwater seems to have been its dark reflection, an attempt to transmit information into the human mind. Both projects operated on the radical assumption that consciousness was not strictly confined to the brain and could be manipulated by external forces. Looking even deeper, we find echoes of Stillwater in the Soviet Union's research into psychotronics. Soviet scientists, less constrained by Western scientific dogma, openly explored concepts like torsion fields and bioenergetic communication. They believed that human thought and emotion could generate physical fields that could be detected and influenced from a distance. Project Chimera, with its focus on resonance and wave mechanics, is philosophically identical to Soviet psychotronic theory. It is possible that Stillwater was a direct American response to perceived advances by the Soviets in this field of paranormal warfare. When viewed as part of this tapestry of secret research, Project Chimera no longer seems like a complete anomaly. It becomes the logical, albeit terrifying, endpoint of a particular line of Cold War thinking, the weaponization of human consciousness itself. These programs shared a common thread, a willingness to explore the fringes of science and human experience, to break all ethical rules, and to pursue any potential weapon in the ideological struggle for global dominance. The tragedy of Stillwater is that it may have been the one project that actually succeeded, far beyond its creator's most terrifying nightmares. The disappearance of over 250 people from Stillwater remains the central, unanswered question. The cleanup crew found no bodies, and no official record of their fate has ever surfaced. How could so many people simply vanish? Dr. Finch's warning in his memorandum about ontological resonance and a desynchronization from baseline reality has given rise to one of the most abstract and disturbing theories about the town's fate: the resonance cascade hypothesis. This hypothesis, championed by a small group of theoretical physicists and philosophers, posits that the event at 03:33 a.m. was not a weapon, a communication, or an explosion. It was a phase shift. According to this theory, the LF field, amplified by the valley's geology, reached a critical point, the cascade Finch feared. At this point, the field did not just influence the reality within the valley. It overwrote it. It created a bubble, a localized pocket of space-time that permanently detached from our own. The residents of Stillwater did not die, nor were they teleported. They and the town itself simply ceased to exist in our frame of reference, because their frame of reference was fundamentally and irrevocably changed. The physicist who first proposed this model used the analogy of a radio. Imagine that consensual reality is a broadcast on a specific, frequency, he explained. All of us are radios tuned to that station. The Stillwater experiment was like building a massive pirate radio transmitter in the middle of the valley that was so powerful, it forced all the radios in its vicinity to tune to a new, alien station. From our perspective, outside the transmitter's range, their station simply went silent. But from their perspective, inside the bubble, they may still be there, listening to a new broadcast, living by a new set of physical laws. The silence wasn't the end of the experiment. It was the moment of successful and permanent secession from our universe. This hypothesis, while impossible to prove, is terrifyingly elegant because it accounts for all the disparate, bizarre pieces of evidence. It explains the stopping of the clocks, the moment the new timeline branched off. It explains the lack of bodies and the preserved state of the town. The area wasn't destroyed, it was simply saved in a different format. It explains the persistent geological and optical anomalies. They are the lingering stress marks on the boundary of our reality, where the bubble was excised. It even offers a potential explanation for the final broadcast. It was the final trailing signal from the town as it slipped from our frequency, a final echo before the connection was severed completely. The resonance cascade hypothesis suggests that the horror of Stillwater is not that everyone died, but that they may not have. In the vast sea of rumor and speculation surrounding the Stillwater anomaly, one story persists with remarkable tenacity: the tale of the lone survivor. The legend does not appear in any of the leaked documents or official testimony, but circulates in the clandestine world of intelligence community gossip and among families of those who worked on the fringes of the cover-up. The story goes that one man, a junior electronics technician, escaped the valley in the final chaotic hours before the 03:33 a.m. event. The identity of this individual changes with the telling of the tale, but the core elements remain the same. He was reportedly one of the staff members who had expressed concerns alongside Dr. Finch about the experiment's stability. Seeing the final unauthorized power surge and the horrifying synchronized behavior of the townspeople, he made a decision. He abandoned his post, sabotaged a jeep to make it look like it had broken down, and fled on foot, heading over the treacherous mountain ridge opposite the main emitter a ray away from the field's epicenter. According to the legend, he journeyed for 2 days through the wilderness, suffering from severe disorientation, memory loss, and auditory hallucinations that slowly subsided the farther he got from the valley. He was eventually found by a forest ranger on a remote trail, dehydrated, incoherent, and suffering from extreme paranoia. He was taken to a local hospital, but before local law enforcement could conduct a proper interview, he was whisked away by the men in suits, the same unidentified federal agents who maintained the quarantine. The story concludes that he was taken to a secure, military psychiatric facility, likely somewhere like Walter Reed or a more clandestine location, where he was held incommunicado for the rest of his life. He was diagnosed with a unique, unclassifiable form of schizophrenia. He never spoke a coherent word again. He would spend his days sitting in complete silence, but would occasionally be seen tracing complex geometric patterns in the air with his fingers, or tapping out the rhythm of the Stillwater numbers sequence on his bedside table. This story, while entirely apocryphal, serves a crucial narrative function. It provides a potential human witness, a link between the sealed-off event and our world. If true, his escape would be the ultimate proof that the event was not survivable from within. His catatonic state would be the result of a mind that had been pushed to the brink of a reality shift and pulled back at the last second, shattering it in the process. While we have found no hard evidence to substantiate the existence of this lone survivor, the persistence of the rumor itself is significant. It speaks to a deep-seated need for a witness, for someone to have seen the abyss and returned, even if broken. Without him, the story of Stillwater has no epilogue, only a final torn page and an eternal deafening silence. In the modern era, the mystery of Stillwater has not faded. It has evolved. The valley, though still officially inaccessible and unacknowledged, has become a grail for a new generation of investigators, urban explorers, paranormal researchers, and online sleuths who coordinate their efforts on forums in the deep corners of the internet. These modern explorers, armed with GPS devices, drones, and sensitive recording equipment, have made numerous attempts to penetrate the restricted zone and find the physical remains of the town. Their efforts are almost always met with failure, but these failures are in themselves a form of evidence. The most commonly reported phenomenon is extreme equipment malfunction. GPS units lose their satellite lock within a specific perimeter. Digital cameras produce corrupted files or fail entirely. Drone guidance systems go haywire, often leading to the loss of the aircraft. This electronic interference is far more advanced and localized than typical magnetic deviation, suggesting the possibility of an active deterrent system, a kind of electronic fence, still guarding the valley's secrets. Those who claim to have gotten close on foot report a range of physiological and psychological effects. The most common is a profound sense of disorientation, of losing one's bearings even with a map and compass. Others report a feeling of intense, irrational dread, a fight-or-flight response in the absence of any discernible threat. And many report hearing the hum not with their ears, but as an internal vibration, a pressure behind the eyes, consistent with exposure to the ELF waves that have been measured in the area. The photographic and video evidence that has emerged from these expeditions is blurry, inconclusive, and highly controversial. Strange lights in the woods, distorted images that seem to show structures that should not be there. Audio recordings filled with static that, when analyzed, reveal non-random patterns. These fragments fuel endless online debate but provide no definitive proof. They are modern myths, digital folklore. Yet this modern exploration serves a vital purpose. It demonstrates that the Stillwater anomaly is not a static, historical event. The forces that guard it, whether they are human agents in black sedans or invisible electronic countermeasures, are still active. The strange physical properties of the valley, the magnetic, gravitational, and acoustic anomalies, are still present. The story of Stillwater is not over. The urban explorers and online investigators, in their often fumbling attempts to find a ghost town, are inadvertently proving that the quarantine is still in effect, and that whatever was born in that valley in 1957 is still considered dangerous enough to be hidden from the world at all costs. In the face of fragmented documents, chilling testimonies, and persistent physical anomalies, the official stance of the United States government is one of absolute, unwavering denial. There was no Project Chimera. There was no Dr. Alistair Finch in their employ after 1952. There was no experiment in a town called Stillwater, Montana, because no such federally administered town ever met its end in such a fashion. This official stonewalling is, in many ways, the final and most powerful piece of evidence. Over the years, numerous Freedom of Information Act requests have been filed by journalists and independent researchers, including our own team. We have requested documents pertaining to Project Chimera, the land acquisition of the Stillwater Valley by Pioneer Geological Services, and the service records of personnel alleged to have been involved. The responses are uniformly consistent. The Department of Defense, the CIA, the Department of Energy all return the same formulaic reply. We are unable to locate any records responsive to your request. This is not a redaction or a classification. It is a statement of non-existence. In the world of intelligence and classified projects, this is known as a GLOMAR response, where the agency refuses to even confirm or deny the existence of the requested information. This tactic is used only when the subject matter is of the highest possible sensitivity. To even acknowledge the existence of a file on Project Chimera would be to admit that such a program existed, breaching a level of secrecy deemed essential to national security. The denial itself becomes a confirmation. We presented the Finch Memorandum to a former high-level archivist for a major intelligence agency. He dismissed it as a probable forgery, but made a telling observation. If a project like this did happen, he said, it would have been designated a deep black or unacknowledged special access program. The records wouldn't be classified. They would be expunged. The physical documents would be incinerated. The digital files overwritten. The program would be designed to have never existed from its inception. The fact that you are finding nothing is exactly what you would expect to find. This creates a perfect, impenetrable fortress of denial. Any evidence presented, such as Fragment 0 or the Finch Memorandum, can be dismissed as fabrication. Any witness testimony can be discredited as fantasy or delusion. The physical anomalies can be attributed to unique but natural geological phenomena. The government's silence is not a passive absence of information. It is an active, strategic defense. By refusing to engage, to deny, or to confirm, they relegate the entire Stillwater event to the realm of conspiracy theory, ensuring it will never be treated as a historical fact. The non-existence of the files is the final seal on the town's tomb. We are left with a mosaic of ghosts, a ghost town on a map, a ghost of a man in academic records, ghostly signals in the static, and the ghost of a story told in whispers. We have pursued every lead, analyzed every fragment, and cross-referenced every timeline. The evidence points to a chilling narrative. In 1957, in the isolated valley of Stillwater, a clandestine government experiment in mass psychological control, helmed by the brilliant Dr. Alistair Finch, went catastrophically wrong. Or perhaps catastrophically right. The experiment, designed to manipulate reality, may have instead created a new one, excising the town and its inhabitants from our own universe in an event that left permanent scars on the local environment. We have the motive, the desperate psychological arms race of the Cold War. We have the means, Dr. Finch's theories on psychoacoustic resonance. We have the location, a town erased from the map. We have witness testimony to the operation, the event, and the subsequent cover-up. We have physical evidence of lingering anomalies. And we have the absolute, deafening silence and denial from official sources, a silence that speaks volumes. But for all of this, we have no definitive proof, no official confession, no declassified file that lays the truth bare. And most importantly, we have no survivors, no bodies, no one to tell us what it was truly like in those final moments. The story of Stillwater remains a collection of what-ifs. What if Finch's memorandum was a fabrication? What if the witnesses were mistaken or lying? What if the anomalies are just a coincidence of rare natural phenomena? It is possible to dismiss every piece of evidence individually, but taken together they form a pattern of such specificity and internal consistency that dismissing it entirely requires a greater leap of faith than believing it. The final unanswered question is not simply what happened to the people of Stillwater. The evidence, from the researcher's log to the resonance cascade hypothesis, provides a terrifying potential answer to that. The more profound question is the one posed by the persistent LF wave and the ongoing quarantine. Is the Stillwater anomaly a finished event, a closed chapter of history? Or is it a continuous ongoing process? Is the door that Dr. Finch opened still open? And is the silence that emanates from that empty valley in Montana not an absence of sound, but the sound of something listening?